Hi, welcome to the free virtual assistant training. And now we will continue to understand the basics in the VA industry. In the previous lesson, we have discussed the definition of a virtual assistant. And in the second lesson of this module, we will be understanding more about how a virtual assistant works with a client. So sorry to scare you like this. This lesson will be divided into two different parts. The first part will be just the general idea of how you will be working with your client. And the second part of this lesson, we'll be talking more about the compensation and benefits that you will be receiving while working for your client. As what we have briefly discussed in the first lesson, in the first module, you as a VA will be working remotely for a client. And in my own experience, the countries who outsource more to the Philippines are the US, UK, and Australia, and also from New Zealand and Canada. So VAs work remotely from absolutely anywhere in the world. And clients are also basically just anyone who requires virtual assistance or help online. So, how does a VA work with a client? You may probably be wondering how a virtual assistant can work with a client, especially in the online setting, because the traditional type of work is being able to provide your services in person, right? So, let's go ahead and understand more. There are two popular ways for you to find a client. First is through VA companies or agencies. These VA companies or agencies may be international or local, so you have to look online to find out the background of these companies, what type of services do they offer their clients, because these will be the industry or the niche that you will have to learn as a VA in order to get through these said companies. So, for example, there might be a company that helps real estate companies. So, your job description will now be something that will support these real estate companies. So, like product listings or like by reaching out to potential customers and so on. There are also agencies that would help you with different types of niches. So, once again, it is up to you and it's your job to look for these companies and for you to find out what types of services do they offer to see if you fit into these companies or agencies. The next popular way in finding a client nowadays is via freelancing. Now, in freelancing, there are also two different ways on how you can do that. First is via social media sites. There are a lot of Facebook pages and Facebook groups that are specific into finding virtual assistants. So if you join these groups or pages, these might be clients who are needing virtual assistants. So they will just post their job listings within these Facebook pages or groups, and then they will add the link in which you can then submit your application for you to apply. But once you freelance, you have to be vigilant because there might be some job listers that are pretending to be employers who might be scamming you. So just a tip, if you are applying for a job and if that employer will ask for money or some kind of a deposit, say no and never send any payment of some sort. Don't give your card information or anything because no employer will ask for your money. That's a huge red flag right there. So once again, be careful when you're freelancing. When you're looking for the clients yourself, make sure that you will not send any money. That might be a scam. Another way to freelance is to find clients through freelancing platforms such as Upwork, Fiverr, and Freelancer. Now, you have to create your account in order to be able to find these job listings inside these freelancing platforms. So, Upwork is one of the most famous freelancing platforms. And personally, I've known of Upwork when it was still Odesk. So, this is Upwork, and this is just a preview of the said virtual assistant platform. So, looking over here and scrolling, I listed my category under virtual assistants. So the recommended and the best matches job posts are related to the category that I listed in. I wanted to be a virtual assistant when it was still Odesk, but it was difficult for me at the time, unfortunately. So if you are still starting with your VA journey, then please go through all of our training modules. We are here to help you with your VA journey. Now, let's say that you already have an understanding if you're working via a VA company or agency, or if you found your client through freelancing, such as using freelancing platforms, you were accepted, you are hired by this client, there will be a contract in place. You and your client will have to sign that contract so that you will understand your scope of responsibility for the company and also your agreed payment. You have to read everything, make sure that all of the details in that contract is correct before you sign your client so that you have no regret, no issues with your work whatsoever moving forward. You may also be asked to sign an NDA or non disclosure agreement. This is a way for the companies to protect their properties that you will be handling, such as like their email accounts, their social media images, and everything that you will be touching. You have no rights for those aside from helping your client. So they may be asking you to sign an NDA to get that in writing. Okay. So now let's say that the contract has been signed. Since we are talking about how you will be working with a client, we will be talking about like the step by step process of what will happen once you get hired. So once the contract is in place and you've already signed it, the next step will be onboarding. In the onboarding process, you will learn business and product knowledge. So, an assigned member or the client herself will show you the business and the products relevant to your job. So, if your client already has like an existing team and you will be added to the team, this assigned team member, or if you're working directly with a client, your client herself will show you that this is the business, this is where we are located, this is what we do, these are our products. So in between all of these information that I told you about, you come in here for you to help in this specific part of the business. So it should be clear from the start that you are hired by your client to do a specific task for the business. Now, you will, of course, understand your role. You will have a deeper understanding of your role in the company. So let's say that, okay, your client will say that we need someone to help with graphic designing because our social media engagement is low because of poor designing. So that is where you come in. You will have a deeper understanding that the client have an existing social media account and they have been posting religiously, but they are not reaching a lot of people and it has low engagement because of the style of their current design. So you will understand more that, oh, okay, so this is the problem that they're experiencing. So this is what I can do as the new graphic designer to address that issue or to address that concern. So now that you understand your role into the company, you will then be trained. You'll be trained specifically for the position that you're hired for. Let's say, for example, that you're a graphic designer. Of course, they will not train you on how to be a graphic designer, but they may train you within their standard operating procedure that, okay, so since you are now our graphic designer, what you will have to do is to create a social media post that will be good for the following week. So let's say that today is a Friday or a Thursday, you have to make these graphic designs to be approved before the end of the week so that it will be scheduled to our scheduling platforms. And by the next week, we don't have to manually post these anymore since they have already been scheduled by the scheduling system. So you will have a more detailed training for you to be effective at your job. And also, they might be giving you a different tool, something that you're not familiar with. So, if in this case, if they wanted you to do something and you'll have to use an unfamiliar tool, then they will, of course, provide training and show you around how to use that unfamiliar tool so you will be able to use it and be able to be productive and effective at your work. The next thing that I want to discuss with you is that there is actually a probation period as a VA in some cases. So I know here in the Philippines, I've worked in the BPO industry for over 5 years, and I know that the probation period is for 3 months. So in 3 months, they will be checking my attendance, my performance, and check if I have passed those metrics that they have set for the call center agents within the probation period. If our scores did not pass the metrics, then we're off the probation period and our contract will not push through because we didn't pass. So it means we're not doing our jobs well. So that is why there's a probation period set in place. It still depends if your client or if your company has a probation period. Anyways, they will also be mentioning this before your contract signing. So the probation period is something that you will not miss. They will tell you if it is present. So, some companies, agencies, or clients will implement a probation period where they will monitor your performance and to make sure that your quality of work is something that matches them. Because sometimes there are VAs that are really good at what they do, but somehow their energy with the clients don't match, so the clients might prefer someone else. So the probation period differs. The average is 3 months. I'm not really sure with other companies, but I've experienced a probation period of 2 months, and there are even some for 6 months. So it depends. Next is that you will have to agree and sign up for this during your contract signing. As I mentioned earlier, before you sign your contract, you have to read everything, and they will discuss the contents of your contract before you even sign it. So you have to make sure that you understand what's in your contract. If the probation period exists, even if it doesn't exist in your contract, you still have to perform well for your clients. So I guess it doesn't really matter if you are within a probation period or not, as long as you do your job well, with integrity and with quality, then the probation period is not really a problem. If you pass this probation period, you may sign another contract for a longer term. There are contracts that are only valid for like 3 months during your probation period. And after that, if your client decides that, well, okay, you're good with your job and I would love for you to extend your contract with us, they might let you sign a different contract that will be good for, I don't know, like 6 more months or 12 more months. So it will be a different contract by then. And if you have discussed during your initial contract signing that after 3 months you will have a different rate, then you have to make sure that that new rate will now reflect on your new contract. If you didn't pass, you may be replaced by a different VA, or your contract will end with no extension. Now, let's talk about being deployed to work, the deployment. So, if you remember over here, during the onboarding process, you will learn all the things that you need to understand with regards to the business, the product, your role, and you will be trained further for you to understand what you should be doing for your role. You will be given a specific date and schedule to officially start working. Now, how does a VA communicate with the client? If you're working with a client who has an existing team within the business operations, you will be added to the company communication channels. So, as an example, let's say that your client already has team members. So, you will be added to the team. So, how will you communicate with your client and the team? So there are a lot of tools that are available online, but let's say, for example, that you will be using Slack. Slack is one of the most popular type of communication apps. But as you can see on the left side over there, there is a tab called channels. So if you are a part of a team, there are different channels because there will be different types of work that you'll have to do as a team. So over there with the hashtags, there's hashtag bugs, changes, engineering, general, marketing, ops, products, random, support. So these are like group chats, and these channels are specific to their own purpose. So if you need more details about a certain product, then of course you'll have to ask your question in the products channel. If you need further assistance and if you need help with anything, then you can go to the support channel, for example. There's also the direct messages tab over there. And as you can see, these are the names of a person because these are DMs in which you can talk to that individual privately. So if you have any like personal questions or any information that is specific to that person, then that is how you can communicate with that person. So once again, that's Slack as an example of our team communication. Now, if you're working one-on-one with a client, she will let you know the messaging app she prefers because Slack or similar messaging tools like these are really great if you have a team or if you have a lot of company members who will need to communicate within different departments. But if you're working one on one with your client, then you really don't need that fancy or that big of a communication tool. But your client may prefer these different messaging apps such as WhatsApp, Voxer, and Skype. Now, after communication, let's talk about task management. How will you be able to manage the tasks or the projects that you have to do for your client? Your client will share with you her current task management tool. If she doesn't have one yet, she may ask for your recommendation if you have one. Now, you may be asking, why do you need a different tool other than your communication tool? It's because if your client is just sending your tasks via the messaging apps, it will easily get lost since you will be talking about a lot more other details of your work. So it is important to have a task management system that is web based so that it's easy for you to understand what you have to do. It's easy for you to update your client and to track the progress of your task. So let's take a look at a few examples of the task management tools that are available. So if you're not familiar, this is Trello, and this is a good example of a web-based team management system that's commonly used between clients and their virtual assistants. A team management system such as Trello will be useful in order to assign tasks, keep track of the said tasks, and to basically just communicate with your client the tasks that you have to do and when it is due. So for example, in this sample board, usually it'll be your client who'll create this Trello account and then invite you. So you have access to this board as well, and you may be able to see a similar arrangement such as this one. Over here, you might be seeing that your client will be giving you a recurring task or those tasks that you'll have to do every day, such as this one. For example, you have to check your client's social media accounts, reply to the comments in social media, to check email and send responses. These are just examples of the tasks that you have to do every day. And there will be tasks that are due on a specific day. So for example, on Monday, you'll have to do this. You'll have to post motivational quotes on all social media platforms. And then you'll have to do the rest of these tasks also. On Tuesday, you'll also have to do these. So at a glimpse, you will be able to see what your task for that specific day is. But when you click on that card, you should be able to see more details on what that task is all about. So for example, in this card, you'll have to post motivational quotes on all social media platforms. In the description, you will see in here further instructions on how you can accomplish this task. So for example, there is a link in here where the images are ready to be downloaded for you to post on those social media platforms. So in here, as you can see, there is a sample conversation between the VA and the client. The VA asked like, hey client, I got this. May I ask which among these images should I post this week? Thank you. So this Canva link may contain multiple images, and as a VA, it is your job to confirm and ask which of those images are you supposed to be posting. It is your job to clarify. So over here, the client has replied that, hi VA, download images number 14 to 18, one image per day for this week. And more instructions are left in here that the captions are left in this Google Doc. After that, the VA responded that she has already downloaded the images and they have been posted and scheduled for this week. So the images and the captions have both been added, and the client replied, hi VA, great, let's close this card now. So once you have confirmed that this specific task is already good to go and done, you can go ahead and move this card over to the accomplished tab. So let me just move it over here. Alrighty, so now you have accomplished this specific task, and you can then go and do the rest of your tasks. Over here on the far right, you'll be able to see in this column that there are also different types of tasks that you have to complete on a monthly basis. So for example, over here, you have to schedule birthday greetings for clients during the first of each month. So these are the tasks that you don't need to do every day. Again, it's a monthly task. So at the first of each month, this is a reminder for you to schedule birthday greetings for all of your clients. You might also be able to see in here different cards for resources and links. So for over here, there are links for social media accounts, for creatives, like for your photo or video editing tools such as Canva, links for documents and links for calendars, and you can even upload different files in here just so you have these resources ready and accessible for both you and your client. Another example of a web-based team management tool is Monday.com. I just Googled this image. It's from Monday.com itself. And as you can see in here, under the Owners tab, there are different people under a team working on a specific project. So over here on the left side, you'll be able to see the task that this person is working on, and there is a status on the right side indicating if the owner of the task is done or not with that specific task. Also on the far right side over here, you will see that there are files associated or relevant to the task that this person is doing. Monday.com is also a good team management tool for a company composed of multiple people in order to easily keep track of who's doing what and the status of those tasks. Alrighty, now that we have looked at the different task management tools available, let's talk about time management. Now, some companies, agencies, or the clients themselves will ask you to install time tracking tools. So, what is a time tracking tool? A time tracking tool is a tool that you'll have to use every time you go to work. So, if you need to time in, to time out, clock in, and clock out, you need this time management tool for the companies or the clients to track your productivity hours. Now, let's take a look at Time Doctor for example.
This is how it looks like upon logging in. There is a start timer button that you can click when you start working, and that will determine the number of hours that you are working for that specific shift. I'm at the Time Doctor website, and as you can see in here, there's even a summary of the number of hours that you have worked on that specific day, on that specific week, and on that specific month. One of the things that's notable with Time Doctor or with any other time tracking tool online is that if you haven't been using your computer for a certain amount of time, let's say for example in 10 minutes, if you haven't clicked or typed anywhere on your computer, Time Doctor will be able to detect that. And as you can see in here, you have to click on the working button to let Time Doctor know that you are still working. Unless you do that, your timer will pause, which means that your work hours will also be on pause. And as you can see in the sample screenshot over here, the green signifies the hours that you're working. There is a pause in between. So Time Doctor is a very good time tracking tool for your productivity. It's also showing in here the top projects that you are working on. And Time Doctor also has a feature in which they can track the usage of non-work related websites and applications. So say for example over here, as you can see, Solitaire has been used by this specific user for 110 hours and 32 minutes. Your employer will have access to your Time Doctor. So upon seeing this, your employer might be asking you, why are you spending so much time opening and using these non-work related website and applications? Unless of course you need to access these websites and application for work. Another thing with Time Doctor is that it takes a screenshot of your PC or your computer. So looking over here in this example at 1 p.m., there are these screenshots that it took. Alrighty, so that's Time Doctor. Now, some clients actually don't care about time in and time outs, but it's a recommended practice to send check in and check out messages. Even if you're working and you're paid by the hour, some clients really will not care. They will just tell you to send your invoice to them and they will not even check. They will just pay your invoice. Again, this just all depends to your client. But if they don't require for you to use a time management tool or to time in and to time out, it's a recommended practice to send in a message before you start your shift and another message after your shift. So a simple good morning goes a long way. You know, you can send a good morning message before you start your work just for your client to see the timestamp that, okay, my VA went to work at this time, 5 minutes early than her shift, which is great. She was not late. And then you can send a checkout message after your shift, and then you can just say a simple goodbye, or you can just declare to your client that, okay, I will be logging off now for the other revisions or for the other things that I have to do for my work. I will be working on those tomorrow. Now let's go to meetings. Since you will be working for someone and with someone, you have to have meetings in order to understand more details about your work. So what are these meetings for? To discuss company updates. So there might be important things that you have to know that is relevant to your work. So meetings are present
to inform everyone all at once and to make sure that everyone has learned these new updates that might be affecting the type of work that they will be doing for the company. Next is that these meetings are for updates of your tasks. Your client or your project manager may ask you to be in a meeting just to discuss important updates for the tasks that you're doing. Now, another type of meeting is for project reports. So let's say, for example, it's the end of the week and you have to report to your client or for the project manager to understand the overall update or progress of your project. You may also be called in for a meeting for just general question and answers, especially if the issue or what you want to ask is complex, that typing it out would be difficult. You might need to be on a meeting just to be able to talk face to face, online, to just ask directly what you need to know and for that person to provide you answers right away, especially if your clients are super busy. I've even experienced a meeting wherein my client was on his car. He was driving in between one company location to another, and I just have a few questions that I have to confirm before I can actually do my tasks. So he was, of course, hands free. He was using his Bluetooth headset, so everything was good, everything was safe. But just to let you know that some people or some clients are just too busy to text or to send a message, that they prefer to be on a meeting or on a call with you to confirm the details that you need confirming to. Now, let's understand when or how often do you need to be in a meeting. There are weekly meetings, like what I have mentioned earlier. There might be meetings to report the progress of the projects, and that might be weekly. Or if your client would say that, okay, for this week I want us to focus and I want for you to accomplish these tasks within this week, and then your client will lay that all for you. So you might be called on a weekly meeting at the start of the week to understand those tasks that your client would want you to complete. There might be also monthly meetings to understand the monthly progress of a certain project, or just anytime necessary. As I mentioned earlier, if you need to ask questions from your clients and if they prefer to call you or to call the entire team and have just a quick meeting to address anything that is necessary to be addressed, then you might be called into meetings. So it is important for you to have like a working camera and for you to be presentable every time you work. So just avoid wearing pajamas or anything like that for you to be able to be presentable whenever a meeting is required. For these basic requirements, I will be talking more about this in the next few more lessons, such as the hardware, software requirements, and even, clothing or how you present yourself. We will tackle more about those in the next few lessons. Now, let's talk about schedule. What is the work schedule of a VA? If your client is based in the US or in Canada, they are, I think, 12 hours opposite of the Philippines. So if it's 12 noon in the US, it's 12 midnight in the Philippines. I'm just giving like a rough estimate, but if your client is in the US or in Canada, most likely you'll have to work the night shift because your client would want you to work during their working hours also. Now, if your clients are in Australia and New Zealand, you may be working the morning shift. Australia is 2 hours ahead of the Philippines. So if it's 8 in the morning in Australia, it's 6 in the morning in the Philippines. New Zealand is 4 hours, I think, ahead of the Philippines. So if it's 8 in the morning in New Zealand, it's 4 in the morning in the Philippines. I was able to try working for a New Zealand client, and I had to wake up at 4 or 5 in the morning in order to work during the work hours of my client. I know that it's quite early to wake up, but you'll have a lot or plenty of time in the afternoon in which I was able to utilize to help my children. So it was quite fun to be able to work that early in the morning. So yeah, but it really just depends because some clients will require a different schedule. So for example, I have a US based client, and she said it's okay if I work in the morning, which is evening in the US. I also have experienced a client that is based in the US but was currently located in Dubai, and Dubai is like 4 hours ahead of the Philippines. So the VA had to work in the morning shift, even though their client is a US citizen. So yeah, it just really depends on your client for you to figure out your schedule. But like I mentioned, these are the most common schedule that you may be facing if you're working for these clients.